Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feedback bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Tennis Podcast, your favorite podcast where two Sweetie sisters and a sweet-eyed Jimmy talk about movies that shaped their childhood. I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And I'm Sweetie with a Y.
I'm Sweetie with an I.
Sweet Eye, Jimmy Eye.
Sweet.
My second appearance.
So many sweeties. Hey guys, so my choice and funny story. So pretty much since I've been dating Jimmy, we're almost at our 3-year anniversary later this year, and he knew I had a podcast. He mentioned, when are you going to watch Bill and Ted's? When are you going to watch Bill and Ted's? Yeah. And I said, funny story, Jimmy. I've never seen it. I've never seen Bill and Ted's. Okay. So pretty much through our entire 3-year relationship, he's been bugging me to do it. And I said, finally, you know what? Today is the fucking day. So we watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So we're going to have Jimmy on the podcast for a couple minutes here. And then we'll do our regular normal Sweetie thing, as we always do. So, Jimmy.
Yes.
Get over here.
Yes. Sharing a mic.
Dear Jimmy, why do you like this? So first of all, we usually ask people, when did you first see this film, or when do you remember watching it? What is your childhood memories of watching this film?
Yeah, I don't have one particular memory. Definitely watched it many, many times. I want to say around the age of 10 to 12 in that era. We obviously owned it, and just love the movie. Love the history of it, and I think it's hilarious.
Nice. Was it a movie that you and your friends watched often, or just yourself?
Maybe definitely my brother, and probably the neighbors who are like my brothers. They were always over.
Okay.
No connection with any other friends.
Do you think of yourself as a Bill or a Ted?
Good question. I always like Bill more. I don't know why, but
really?
Probably Ted, because I'm the tall guy.
Wow.
But they're pretty similar, so you can't.
True.
I find them different.
Yeah.
I'll explain why in a little bit.
Okay.
So you said when we started watching this, you hadn't seen this in how long?
Yeah, no, it's been a while. I might have watched it only once as an adult.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Where we're from, if it's your favorite movie,
I know.
You're watching that shit twice a year. I say.
I know. Goonies.
Minimum.
I mean, I feel like
it's not my favorite movie.
Is never on.
You said the
You have been saying that for a couple of years now.
It's top 10.
Okay, that's fine.
Maybe top 5.
I don't find this movie you don't see it on TV that much. It's not like a Goonies where I feel like it's always on TV or
it's
like
a cult
Sandlot.
It's a cult classic, a cult movie.
Yeah, cult classic. So since you hadn't seen it in a long time, do you still think it's good? Like, has it aged well for you?
Yeah, similar to when I was a kid, I guess. There are some really, really funny scenes, and some of it's just okay. But yeah, no, I was happy with it. Like I said, I don't remember some parts, and no, it was definitely entertaining.
Who's your favorite character?
Ooh, probably Billy the Kid, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah, just on the spot. Yeah.
I feel like he started out strong, but they didn't do a lot with him by the end.
No, but he was cool.
Yeah,
he was cool, and he ended up being a nice guy too.
Yeah, it was great. They're all great.
Yeah. And Napoleon cracks me up.
Yeah.
Well, it's my favorite scene. The Sweeties will explain it, but it's probably Napoleon at the Waterloo, at the water park. That is probably my favorite scene. I was cracking up through that. Yeah.
We were witness.
Yeah.
It's true.
You did enjoy that.
All right. Well, thanks, Sweet Eye.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks for joining the podcast. I'm happy I was able to watch this.
Oh, yeah, finally.
I was pleasantly surprised.
The reason you did
I
is
went
'cause I was
into
begging
it,
for it.
with an open mind, not knowing really anything.
Yeah.
So
Can't wait to hear
I'm
your,
glad we finally watched it, and we will now have this
Can't wait to hear your
connecting
take.
us. Oh, you better listen to this episode. He hasn't listened to all the episodes. Some of them.
My next is Bogus Adventure.
I think I'm about good for Bill and Ted for a
No,
couple
I know.
years.
I got it.
All right. Thanks, hun.
Bye. And we're back. Yeah, so Bill and Ted made in the golden year?
The golden year.
19, is that right?
Yeah.
1989. Starring the one, the only Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. This is Keanu Reeves in his best kind of role, I think. The one that people identify him very closely with, I think, is the like surfer dude, or not surfer, but like rock dude. It's this like, what do you call that? Like stoner or something.
I didn't get the feeling they like did drugs.
It was very vanilla, like nothing.
Almost like a Wayne's World.
was
How-
racy in this.
Yeah.
Like no boobs.
Almost like Wayne's World, Wayne and Garth. They're kind of like straight edge. They're not like
Right.
They don't do
True.
drugs. They don't drink. I mean, these kids are in high school, but still,
They did
yeah.
have those beers, but
They're just like
yeah.
so into music.
Yeah.
and-
Even though they don't
and
know how to
rock.
play the
Yeah.
instruments. What a twist.
Yeah.
What the fuck? But yeah, overall, I'd say this is like a guy movie. It's like a big male favorite, I think, from their childhood. Whereas a lot of women probably didn't see it when they were growing up.
Yeah.
At least none of my friends.
Well, and I can see Jimmy and his friends watching this like when they were little and being totally into it. Here's why I think catchphrases. Do you feel like guys like love a simple catchphrase that they can just like hang
We call them
their
simple-minded.
little baseball caps on?
Small brains.
What else? What other movie did we say? This applies to guys
Like,
because
I
they.
don't know, Schwarzenegger. Austin Powers. Like,
What was that? That was another movie where we were just like, this feels like it's for men. But yeah. So I can see why, and then you would go around all day with your friends saying like bogus, totally, that's way cool, and then you think you're like the coolest thing ever. Which I do not take that away from guys in that
Sure.
era. I would have done that too.
party on. Yeah.
Yeah, party on. So yeah, this wasn't really what I expected. I guess I don't know. Here's my like only thing I knew about Bill and Ted. I guess was the catchphrases. I guess and like the phone booth. I mean, it's kind of like a pop culture. What do you call it? Like, even if you've never seen the movie, like a little bit of what is in it.
Yeah. I guess like I didn't
What is that called?
know that it was like time travel.
Yeah, that's what I didn't really.
But
know.
did I? I don't know. Like, who's to say? Ooh, just get pale over my face.
No, you're good.
Okay. Phew. Yeah. So first time, I think. I mean, overall thoughts. Interesting. I would say interesting. It's just it's one of those like very ridiculous movies that's like highly absurd, and that's where the comedy comes from, is this like absurdity. And it's like, but it's not like a Mel Brooks absurdity. I don't know how to describe it. It's just like a simple absurd, like things are just like make no sense.
Yeah, like it didn't have the cleverness that like a Mel Brooks film does. A little bit here and there, but definitely not like woven through the whole movie at all. So this is both like a time travel and time machine movie / fish out of water.
What's the difference?
Well,
Time travel, time machine?
Time travel versus. Well, I guess you always need a time machine, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
I don't know why I did that. Anyway, but also this fish out of water because you have all these historical figures.
But they don't act like it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, coming back to 1989. What is the town called? San Dimas, California, and being like totally fine about being asked to like scrub a toilet. I don't know.
They don't even know what a toilet is. That's why I don't buy it. It's just, but they're not thinking of that. Like, it's not a movie like Back to the Future where you're like, oh, him not being in the correct attire is a problem, and that's a problem he needs to solve. Like, that kind of stuff is not really represented here. There's no risks. They're not like, wow, you may have really ruined all of time because you stole these important historical figures away from their time periods.
Right. Like the trivia said, this is one of the only time travel movies where like they don't alter history by dipping into it
because they're not playing by any rules.
Right. Exactly.
Like they immediately see themselves in this movie, and that's like usually like the main time travel rule, right?
Right. And like the writers didn't want to deal with that, which like I don't blame them because that's, you know, as we've talked about various time travel movies, you know, Back to the Future being our favorite, but
well, it's just not
complex. It gets
like
complicated.
I figure there would be more complications or conflict due to the fact that these historical figures were in this new future and there was like really nothing, like they were just like having a good time, which is like that's what the movie's about.
Exactly.
I get it
Exactly.
But like you just can't go in with those like kinds of expectations, I guess, in order to watch this.
So this was directed by Stephen Herrick, who really did some pretty awesome movies that we actually like. So Critters, not that one.
Oh, that's okay. Billy Zane's in that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Holland's Opus.
Never saw it.
It's nice. Too long. The Three Musketeers. I think like Kiefer Sutherland's in that one.
Oh, okay.
Like somebody else.
Yeah.
But these two I was very happily impressed with. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Yes.
And Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Good
cool.
one. Okay.
And then the writer, Chris Matheson, and then he wrote it with somebody else, did the screenplay and also did the screenplay for Goofy Movie, which we just watched. How crazy is that?
Oh my God.
I know.
What are these connections?
Yeah. So like, what are the odds? But yeah, also starring George Carlin. So we left that part out. That's really the only other famous person. I didn't recognize anyone else. No one who plays any of the historical figures.
Jane Weedland is one of the Go-Go's.
Oh, okay.
She's from
Yep.
the band The Go-Go's. She is Joan of Arc.
Yep.
But yeah, that's really it.
Yep. It's really all about Bill and Ted. So they went on then to make the sequel, which is Bogus.
Bill and Ted's Bogus
Journey. And then, if you remember, there was like the big buzz around the reboot or whatever that happened last year, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was last year. It was during the pandemic, and everyone was like super pumped about it. You know, we needed anything to get us pumped during the pandemic, and that was definitely one of the things I remember.
I mean, I wasn't pumped. You were pumped?
Well, because we never saw it. Jimmy was. We were like trying to find it to see it like the drive-in, I think. We never got around to it. And I couldn't watch it because I was like, I'm not watching it until I watch this one. But it was like the two main guys. They obviously brought them back. They look, you know, Keanu Reeves looks like basically exactly the same. He's aged quite well. I wouldn't say that maybe the same about Alex Winters, but he, you know, didn't continue to be a movie star. He went more the director route. So, but yeah, Keanu's just timeless. I just love that bitch.
Just like a Chanel suit.
I know.
Timeless.
And like I think, you know, as like Instagram and social media and stuff and all that come out, and these a little bit more of the personalities of these movie stars come out, and I think he's one that has people are like, he's really
when he's just
cool,
like rides
really
the
nice.
subway in New York.
Yeah.
Like I remember that video went viral for a while,
And I'm just so happy to find that
does
out.
all these like fun cameos and stuff. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he just seems awesome. So I love when like you think someone's awesome like on screen, and that translates to them their actual personality. Go Keanu. All right, so let's I just have like random shit to talk about, so let's just get into synopsis unless you have anything else to say. Also, our introductions have been like way too long recently.
What?
Yeah, I feel like we're heavy introductions now, and then
Well, that's you. You're like,
I know.
blah, blah, blah. I read all this trivia.
I
Here's
know.
something to say to
I
them.
used to put the trivia at the end.
Well, then do it at the end.
That's what I'm doing.
All right. Good. Great.
Sweetie squabbles. All right. It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yes.
Sweeties.
You killed Ted, you medieval dickweed.
Bill and Ted are high schoolers living in San Dimas?
Dumas?
I know, it looks like Dumas. California in the year 1989. They are...
It was actually 1988.
Okay, 1988. They are very into their band, which is called Wild Stallion, spelled wrong with like Y's and L, too many L's.
How do you have a 2-person band?
White Stripes. I think it's possible.
But you need other people to play the other instruments, right? Didn't they both play the guitar?
The White Stripes. I don't. I don't think so. No, didn't one of them play drums? Oh, no, I guess they did play the guitar. Well, that's the thing. That's the joke. Is that like they don't even really know how to play those instruments.
But didn't
like,
they say we need
it's just
Eddie
a
Van Halen,
lifestyle.
who is also a guitarist?
they're dumb. Like they don't know stuff. So they're so dumb that they're flunking I'd be surprised if they weren't flunking every class, but it seems like they're only in danger of flunking world history, in which the final presentation is you have to like talk about different historical figures and what they think of your like podunk town. And like what Napoleon wouldn't think anything about our podunk town. He would like demolish it in a second and be like, "This place is dumb." And, like, give me a break. Like, what a weird project. Yeah. So Bill and Ted have to get an A+ on this, or they're gonna flunk. And then to add to that pressure, Ted's dad, who is a cop, is like, if you flunk, I'm sending you to military school in Alaska, which is like not a thing.
The old military school threat.
You know, in Alaska. Yeah, that was totally like a 90s thing. Bad kids go to military school. No. So it's becoming very dire that they need to not flunk. So they start trying to like actually do some work and like figure out who these historical figures are. And these historical figures can come from any point in history. It's not like a world civilizations, you know, it's Stone Age to like whatever.
It's the craziest survey course I've ever heard.
Every period.
Literally, that's why they were flunking. Yeah. Who can like remember all that shit?
There's no focus. What is the school?
That teacher is crap.
So, but they're trying to study, and they're like, it's pretty sweet. And then they are outside, or they hear a noise, and this like phone booth appears out of thin air, and it's this guy named Rufus who's there to tell them that, hey, you guys are really. Does he tell them they're really important?
Yeah, I forget like
the gist of what he tells them, but like basically. He's there to help them, I don't know, like fix something. And they're going to time travel to anywhere they want to go. So then I guess they kind of get the idea that, oh, that's how we can get an A+ on our presentation. So they're not really sure about this time travel thing. And then another phone booth drops down, and it's Bill and Ted. And they're like, what? And they have this conversation with themselves, like, you guys got to do it. Like, you're going to do so many cool things and see so many cool people. And, like, what about the babes? Like, there's some serious babes, the princesses. And, like, so they're excited about that. But ultimately, they're a little like, I don't know if we should do this. Seems weird. But in the end, they decide to go for it. So Rufus takes them first to see Napoleon, who's busy conquering various lands. I think this one they said was Austria, even though they went to Austria again later. So right. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe I read that wrong. But so they see Napoleon, and basically Rufus is like, all right, here we are. That's Napoleon. Okay, time to go. And it's like, what the fuck are they going to learn from that? So turns out they're trying to leave in their phone booth, and as it's disappearing into the time vortex or whatever, Napoleon like jumps in and travels with them down the tube and ends up back at Ted's house. So now we have Napoleon stuck in a tree and Bill and Ted, and Rufus is like, all right, good luck, see ya. Like, here's a phone book with all the places you can go to. The only rule is like you have to remember the time or something.
Yeah,
like you
time continues in the present.
Yeah.
So in where their town is. So Ted has this watch, which unfortunately is one you have to wind. Okay, who invented
What
those?
is this?
Those are terrible.
Digital.
Yeah, digital. Watch batteries. What are you doing? And it's like the 80s, which was like a highlight of digital watches.
Swatches.
So
did you have to wind a swatch?
Comes into play a little, no, it had a battery.
Yeah. Most one.
I don't know why.
Most watches not from the 1920s.
Right. The only time I ever had to wind a watch was I had like Great Grammy Eva's little like tiny little gold one, and it was a bitch because like you would have to remember like every 12 hours to wind it. Anyway,
every 12 hours? No.
What? It's like I don't know. I don't remember how.
What would be the point of a watch? It must be like a month or something. I don't know.
I don't think it's a month. anyway.
I'll Google it. You talk.
Okay. So that's like the one caveat that comes into play later. So they're back in the present and they decide, okay, we're going to travel to different time periods and pick up people, important historical figures, and then bring them back to help us do this project, which they have to do the next day. Unfortunately, Napoleon is still there. So they're like, okay, I'm going to have my brother, Ted's brother, Deacon, babysit him. Okay, Deacon's like 12. And then they're going to go on their time travel journey. So they're like, okay, Napoleon, like you stay here with Deacon and like Deacon, take him to the mall and stuff like that. I don't know. Strange. So that's like a side plot. And then the main plot is them just, hopping around to different time periods. So where do they go, sweetie?
They go to New Mexico, where they find Billy the Kid, the famous outlaw. Next, they go to Greece and meet Socrates, or as they say, Socrates, right?
Yeah, Socrates. It's like they're
pronouncing it.
They're pronouncing it
phonetically.
because they need to look in the
Is that
index
phonetically?
to see.
I don't know.
To see like what he did. They weren't unaware of who Socrates was. Hey, I kind of was too.
Phonetically would be like Sockra.
Right.
That's not phonetically. Don't come after us, word police. God. Next, they go to England. Just try to pick up some babes / maybe King Henry. Not sure which one.
They didn't pick up.
But they didn't end up
from there.
picking anyone up there. It was a bad scene. They had to leave. Next, Austria. They get Freud. Germany. Germany, Beethoven. France, Joan of Arc. Genghis Khan. And then Abraham Lincoln. So that's their roster. And now the race is on to get back to school in time for the presentation. However, they have to make a pit stop at the mall because they have to figure out what these historical figures think about this shitty town. So
They get them.
they get some slushies, and then Bill and Ted are like, we'll be right back. Nobody move. We're going to go get Napoleon, who at this point has ditched, Deacon and his friends have ditched Napoleon because he was a jerk. And they're like, where would Napoleon go? Turns out there's a water park called Waterloo, and that's probably where he is. So they find him. He's like having a field day with the slides, and they get him back to the mall. Unfortunately, everybody else has gone different directions. So all these historical figures are in the mall, and they all find like different exciting things from the future that like they're really into. Like Genghis Khan finds a bat and is like smashing things.
It goes to, like, a sporting
he's
goods
a
store.
barbarian. Yeah. And then Joan of Arc is really into exercise, like jazzercise.
I don't understand that. Like,
I don't think she'd be into exercise. Like she's a badass.
Yeah.
Like she's not gonna do jazzercise.
Yeah, she was going nuts like in an aerobics class as like the instructor.
Yeah, give me a break. Beethoven finds like 8 keyboards and is like doing a concert at the mall, which seemed to be well attended and people were very into it. But he still got arrested by the mall cops. And what else? Freud. I don't remember him doing anything.
Freud. Well, him and Socrates and Billy the Kid were trying to
hit
hook
on
up with
some babes at the food court. Abraham Lincoln is taking pictures, like a photography place where you put on like props. And the guy's like, all right, give the beard back, buddy. And he's like, this is my beard.
Didn't you see him walk in with it?
I know. Like, hello, not a good employee. So they all get in trouble because the mall cops decide they have to bust all these people up. So they all get arrested and taken to the sheriff's office, which is Ted's, where the station where his father works. Or is he the sheriff? Maybe. He has the keys, so who knows? He wears his gun around all the time on that sling that guys have on their person. So now they have to fucking bust all these people out of jail. So there's this like kind of magic wand waving part where they're like, oh, let's go back in time after our presentation, get the keys that we need to bust them out of jail, leave them behind a sign. And then the keys are there because like theoretically they already did that, so they're there.
Yeah. So all they have to do is say what they want to happen out loud, and all the solutions happen. Which I was trying to bend my brain around.
No,
and I
in the
couldn't do it.
movie that's how it works, but in real time they would have to have gone back and
But
done that.
they don't show them going back,
right?
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna fucking watch that. What is this? Back to the Future Part 2? Like I don't care about that. So. So they bust everybody out. They like hightail it to school. They're the last presentation. The teacher thinks they're like no shows. And then they basically kind of throw on like a performance piece of like it's almost similar to the Hall of Presidents, actually, where like everybody's kind of like in the background, and then one at a time they come forward and like do their spiel. So their spiel varies from like showing their talents or like skills in some kind, and or telling what they like about San Dimas. Like that's the presentation. Like it's not very interesting. Like it's not like Joan of Arc shows how you communicate with God or something. You know, like it's like it's not on that level. The closest is like Freud does some like psycho evaluation to Ted, which is like a good one. But other than that, nobody really like showed their skills too much. So it was great. Everybody loves it, cheering. It's like a concert, and then they go back in time to return them, I guess. And then they get back and they're playing their instruments, and Rufus shows up, brings them the babes that he's rescued from medieval England, and then all is well. And then they find out that like Bill and Ted are actually like really important figures in the future in the year 2688. And wait, how can that be possible?
Well, they like that world that they created with this music. So Rufus tells them that they do eventually become like big rock and roll stars,
right.
and their music changed the world, and it made this like whole different world, and they became like these leaders of this new world.
Yeah.
So I mean, they would only live to like what 20.
I see.
40,
Yeah.
50.
So that's why
Yeah.
Rufus goes back to like help them, because
Yeah.
they can't flunk or they'll never become these famous musicians.
Right. So it's a little bit like a Terminator style, like let's go back to the future to protect. Sorry, let's go back to the past to protect the future. Someone can't kill Sarah Connors because we need John Connors to lead the revolution. Bill and Ted can't get separated. If they flunk this, then Ted's going to military school, so then they would never be this band together, and then this new world order would never happen. So that's like what it comes down to.
Don't worry, they saved it.
Yeah,
so.
don't worry, they save it. And like Sweetie said, there's like a funny thing that they don't even know how to play guitar. So their band is called Mystic Stallion.
Wild Stallion.
Stallion. Spelled horribly. And they're like very serious about it, and they love it to the point, obviously, they're not really into school or anything. And you think, okay, like, like all kind of guys at that time, they all thought they could play the guitar. Mm-hmm. So at least you thought they might have had like some talent.
Well, I'm not
turns
surprised.
out they didn't know how to play the guitars at all.
I'm not surprised they had that misconception, because literally like every television show, people are like, let's start a band. And then like the next day they're playing the drums.
Like guitar is hard.
All instruments are hard. Like you can't just like pick shit up.
I know. It really is. Like TV to movies is such a disservice. Like you can't just pick up a guitar and be like, rah, rah, rah,
no.
Like,
I mean,
expect it to
I
sound
always
like
think they do.
anything. I know.
All right, so big news. So they recommend you wind your watch once a day.
Oh.
But a typical watch has about a 2-day power reserve. Okay. Yeah. But it's just easiest to remember to do it every day. So Sweetie was right again.
I'm rarely right. Okay.
So that's the movie. Like we said, not really our cup of tea, but had some good moments.
But sweet. I thought it was really sweet. Honestly, I thought it was going to be dumb, and they're really. I don't know. I think just the two main characters were like really sweet. Seemed really sweet guys, and they were so like well-meaning, and I think that really made the movie like stick together really well. And they did seem like kind of cool guys. I don't think necessarily like they're dumb.
Well, they really tried. I think it's the case. I think it's a case of like Dumb and Dumber, where like Jeff Daniels is like not that dumb,
right?
But
Like
Jim
I don't
Carrey
think Bill was that dumb.
Yeah, Bill was pretty smart.
Yeah, and like they just don't like pay attention. They're kind of like simple and one-track mind, but if they actually try, they're actually like kind of deep people who want to learn. So I guess like the guy who played Alex Winters, who plays Bill, he would get a lot of feedback from teachers being like, wow, this movie like really made kids interested in history, but it also made them speak like terribly. So it was like plus, double-edged sword with this one. But I thought overall, like, it was really sweet. I totally see why people would like latch on to this, and it would become, as we said, cult classic, and really grab people, and people were excited about it. So Very sweet. I'd give it a B plus. Jimmy grading world.
Cool. Yeah. So what did you want to talk about?
Okay. So here's my question. So let's say you're making a movie like this nowadays. What could you use that is ubiquitous for the 19th century as a phone booth?
So, I mean, okay. So the phone booth thing is like clear. Definitely has to be a nod to Doctor Who, right? Which is where he traveled around in a time machine called the TARDIS, and it was shaped like a big blue police box from England.
So apparently they did want to use a car for this one, but then we're like, oh, can't be like Back to the Future. Let's use a phone booth. Whether they knew about Doctor Who or not, I'm not sure.
They had to. If you're doing time travel, anything, you have to know about Doctor Who. So it had to.
Now,
have been
like we don't have phone booths, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that like the method of time traveling was really due to the phone. Like they had that phone book. They have like the number you punch in. Like you have to do an act of like determining where you're going. So I guess a phone like makes sense.
Yeah.
And a phone booth because they needed to like fit all those people in it. So like logically, I get it.
But I was also thinking like how much phone booths are just used in like movies. Let's say like Superman like changing in a phone booth.
Yeah.
The Doctor Who example you already said. Like the Birds when she's like in the phone booth. I feel like the phone booth is used like in movies so much. And now that we don't have
The
them,
movie Phone Booth. Colin Farrell is like takes place like in a phone booth.
Oh yeah.
I think it's called phone booth.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah.
And the guy lives
Get
in
out
the
of my
phone
house.
booth.
You
I
just moved.
we like don't have them anymore, and it's even funny. Like there's a spot in the town next to the town where I used to live, where there was this old, not a phone booth, but just like a phone on the side of the road. What were those? Just phone? A payphone. Payphone. Duh. What were those? And it like they left it there, and like the whole thing is like, you know, you can't call with anything with it or anything, but like sometimes I would just like pick it up for nostalgic sake and be like, whoa.
Hello?
I mean, they're really creepy to see. They're just like an old like artifact of
relic.
what I'd say is like the 20th century. I mean, like,
Sure.
what a fun time, you know? Sure. But yeah, I don't know what we would do now if we were going to do like, you know, what would we time travel in this century? I don't know. No car, no phone
I think it would be
booth.
like a cell phone.
A cell phone? Boring.
I don't know. Let me make the rules. Maybe a car. I don't know.
Yeah.
A boat, a plane.
Ugh, I don't know. I'm just depressed about it. Okay. Okay, funny story. So they ended up fitting 9 people into that phone booth. So it looked like a tight squeeze. That was some of the comedy, right? Is that they're like locked into this phone booth. And then at one point, like the antenna goes on the fritz, so they're like hanging out of the phone booth while they're traveling through the time circuits.
I didn't get where they were. The phone booth was like on its side or something.
And they end up going to 1 million BC, which you're like, wait a minute. What was the Earth like then? Like molten lava? And but mostly like caveman days. That's what it looks like. And they like fix the antenna with pudding
Chewing gum.
cups and chewing gum.
I thought it was just chewing gum.
Anyway, so it made me think, you know, what's the world record for how many people you can fit in a phone booth? Because that has been tried. What do you think it is, sweetie?
Well, there was an episode of America's Next Top Model where they all had to shoot inside a phone booth in the UK. And that was only like 4 or 5 girls. So I'm guessing the real number is like 15.
25 people.
Wow.
In
That's
South
crazy.
Africa in 1950.
I get it. I want proof.
I mean, is there a standard size of phone booth?
Exactly.
What were the size of the people?
Exactly.
I mean, there seems to be a lot of variables that could factor in how many people you could fit in that phone booth. Yeah. Apparently, Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves hated shooting in that phone booth. They called it like the death box or something. I can only imagine. It seems very claustrophobic. Okay, so there's a funny scene when they go to the mall. I will say that the mall scene is pretty funny. Like, so not only just now for the nostalgic like mall factor, which now reminds me kind of Stranger Things that season.
It was just like it's very like 80s stuff has to have a mall
Yeah.
scene in it, or it's like,
Which I
is this
love.
even an 80s movie?
And I know we don't live in necessarily the places that have really good malls. Like we have malls here, but like they're not as great as other parts of the country. And it makes me think like, oh, like malls are so dead, malls are so over. But I don't want to say that blanket statement, not knowing like the Midwest probably still has some kicking malls, and people still probably hang out there. Maybe not COVID now, but like prior. I don't know, even before COVID, like it was still like a teenage hangout. I
Yeah,
was so
I'm sure
happy to
kids still
see.
go there if they have access to get there.
Yeah, you get
Then
dropped
you would
off.
go, but like
and-
ours wasn't like ours was pretty far away, so like we couldn't really just go there on a casual hang with our friends.
Yeah.
It would be more of like a family outing, I
Yeah,
guess.
we didn't even have mall
But
culture.
it was always an exciting place, and like you always wanted to go to the food
It's still
court.
exciting.
Like, what am I
So,
gonna get?
I went to the mall last week. I went to Sephora, and I hadn't been to the mall since we went like last summer. Same mall, and I was still like really like excited about the experience. Just seeing like store after store after store was like really mind blowing to me. I was like, oh my god, this is so cool.
Yeah, malls are great.
Malls are cool.
Great.
Anyway, so they're there, and they're it's some really good mall stuff, but they go up the escalator, and I forget if it's Bill and Ted says something about make sure you pick your feet up so they don't get like sucked under, and it just took me back to this like I don't know when this started, but this, let's say, escalator urban legend. I don't know if it was true or not, but when you were a kid, you would hear these things about either like someone's shoelace getting sucked under and then pulling their whole foot under the thing. Someone's foot got mangled. Someone's hair, they fell on an escalator and their hair got sucked in. I mean, I was so paranoid about escalators. I would like, as soon as I got off that last step, I would just keep my feet like totally flat, or I'd jump it. Because I was so scared of getting sucked in.
But like some people would like not move their feet at all and just let them like rise over the thing, and I'd be like, oh, what are you doing? Yeah, it was always such a fear. Yeah,
Does anyone know if that's true?
Well, there must have been like one incident where that happened. It was some like freak thing, and then it just got like talked about. I remember there was like a random horror movie on TV one time when I was little, and this girl was like rushing to get somewhere, and she had like a huge necklace of like paper clips on, and she was like going up the escalator, and then it got stuck in there, and she got like pulls in, and then is like killed. And I found out what that movie was like later when I did my horror blog, and I watched it, and it was like not how I really remember that scene, but it felt validating that I found it. I forget what it's called, but something's Kiss or something. Terrible movie. So yeah, good memory of escalators. Now I'm not so concerned about them anymore.
No, me neither.
Fine.
They're pretty fun, Pretty
Cool,
sure
they're like they'll stop if something is stuck.
yeah.
That's what they tell me. The elevator men. Remember, like the elevators would always be out of service on the T or like the public transportation. Such a bummer.
Ugh. Or smell like
Bummer. Sure. Yeah.
pee. Or we came
Or
home
like-
from a trip.
The whole like, oh, okay, right. If you're on the right, like you're just cruising on the escalator.
Yep.
Left lane is for passing. Like people are gonna walk up that escalator, and you better not be in their way.
yeah.
And it's like always such an awkward fucking thing when people are just like standing on the left. It's just one of those things of life that like.
But here's my thing with that. If you want to walk up the escalator, why don't you take the stairs?
Because this is faster. Because you're like going twice as fast.
But the escalator is for people who don't want to make that.
Yeah.
Who just want to
Yes.
cruise, who don't want to make the stepping motion.
I agree.
If you want to make the stepping motion, go on the
yeah,
on the
I think
fucking
it's just
stairs.
I think it's just easier to walk up an escalator than it is
certainly,
stairs.
But
But yeah, I mean, I get it. I've done it. I mean, I've walked up an escalator like when I'm going to be late or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, and then if like you walk up for a little while, then you're tired and you like go back in the right lane. You like ready
Well,
to get out.
there's this escalator in one of the Red Line T stops. So we're in Boston, and it's called Porter Square, and it's very deep below the ground. So you have like a pretty long escalator. So but there's stairs right alongside of it. So you would see people be like, "I'm going to take the stairs." And that is one that I hate when people walk up that one because it's so long. But the people who huffed it and took the stairs, oh man, that was funny because they'd be like fine, like halfway. And then the next half, they'd be like dying. And you'd just be looking back at them.
Well, one time the escalator was
being
out for a while
that
at
was the
Porter.
worst. I almost threw up.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No thanks.
That was nutty. And I know they have ones like that in like Washington, D.C. They're like, because some undergrounds or subways or wherever are like way underground. They have to dig them really far down, like depending on where everything is above them. So yeah, it's wild.
Wow.
Miss those commuting days, guys.
What else you got?
Okay, I want to ask you, what historical figures would you put in your booth?
Well, I feel like, what were they drawing from? Like, it seemed like they
It
could,
was really random.
right, and like the phone. I'm not sure what choices the phone book had available or like what, but I don't know. I'd probably do like I don't know, like filmmakers or something, or like maybe presidents. I don't know. It's the thing. It's like, who do you want to meet? Maybe like more women. I would make a play for.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
yeah.
So that felt very like,
History is made by men.
right. Like, and nice that they threw a bone with like the Joan of Arc in there, and then the only other thing was just
She was a schizophrenic.
English babes. But yeah, now this movie would made. I feel like they would do not only that, but obviously more people of color and stuff like that. Frederick Douglass or Gandhi. I don't know. So you would kind of pull people. I mean, they had some, I guess. From most were white Europeans, though, right? Just Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So and they're really trying to change that with history classes. I mean, like, I know they're making a very, very concerted effort to make it like a little bit more okay. We're not just teaching white history, But yeah, who would I put? Good question. I mean,
Duh. Teddy Roosevelt.
yeah. I mean, I have all the presidents, so that would be definitely like one thing. But world history, like, I don't know too much about. Like, I was a U.S. history major. World always seems so daunting to me, or even just European, because there's so much going on.
I mean, like,
U.S. is just concentrated to like 200 or 300 years. They're like, okay, this is easy.
Also, like, everyone was a monster. Like, really, like, everyone was pretty
Totally.
ruthless
That's how
and like
they got where they were.
terrible and like probably raped everyone
Yeah.
and like. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't need anyone. I'm fine with the books, cooking the books.
Yeah, but it's an interesting concept. I mean, they always ask that if you ever read like the New York Times column, what they ask authors about, who would you want to invite to a dinner party, still alive, dead, whatever. And it's always so interesting to think about. So, like, if you did have a time machine and you could go back and just like scoop people up and bring them back with no consequences, like, what would that be like? My thing was always like, and again, they're not making this complicated for the movie, obviously, but you're talking about also bring people who don't speak the same languages. So like the way they get around it, and this is like Socrates is the only one that really seems to be like, he just uses sign language. It's not even sign language. It's just like
Greek
miming stuff out. Like, and Ted is the translator. It's kind of interesting, and then the other people do have some language overlap. I mean, you had
Genghis
Freud.
Khan?
What?
Genghis Khan didn't really.
He didn't, but he didn't do sign language. But like, you have Freud who spoke French, Joan of Arc French, Napoleon French.
Austrian.
Yeah, but they speak French. I mean, a lot of those European countries, like
Austrians
they
speak French?
Yeah,
Shit.
they speak everything. I mean, you kind of like learned every language. Well, it's
Speak
true.
all the languages. They speak Japanese.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
You're
no.
crazy.
Well, I guess
You're crazy, man.
Freud spoke English, but he
was
spoke
very
Austrian, which
smart.
is close to German.
He was a doctor.
Yeah, I'm sure he spoke many languages. But yeah, that was
Official
kind
language of
interesting.
Austria is German.
Is German,
FYI.
yeah.
FYI. Hungarian, another one. Other things I can't pronounce. But yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't need to talk to anyone. But at this point, it's like, we don't really care so much. I mean, Sweetie maybe cares about historical figures, but like, I would rather be like with a celebrity or like a director or something.
What about like musicians?
Or a musician or like someone like on that level who's
Yeah.
like culturally interesting is who I would probably pick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to have like a conversation with them, and I guess I don't know, would they have anything good to say? That's my question. I don't know.
Well, they don't know about their own significance because they're
Exactly.
just living their life. Like, maybe only Abraham Lincoln knew that he was an important figure because he was a president at the time that they kidnapped him. But everybody else was kind of just like
Yeah.
living their life. Like, you haven't really reached infamy yet at that stage, or
Yeah.
you don't realize it.
That's a good point.
So it's interesting.
Yeah, but history's cool, guys. Check it out, but make sure you're doing like well-rounded and not just like white European history, because there's way more to it. All right. So thank you, Sweet Jimmy, for pushing us to do this movie. Glad we finally saw it. It's good to get us to knock off these ones that are these kind of
The
big
snakes.
pop culture like movies that everyone has seen at least once and we've never seen at all.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we can kind of to tackle those. It makes us better people. It makes us better sweeties. And we're here for you. So if you got another one of those, send it our way. We'll be happy to watch it if we have time.
Yeah, so come find us on Twitter at the Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Santos. Thank you as always for listening. Bye.
Bye. Rapers.
Dad's a rape artist. So we forgot to talk about the dad.
Nuts.
Bye.